Triple H was crying. Let those 3 words sit in your brain for a moment before we go anywhere else. Because everything that follows in this video only makes complete sense when you fully understand what those 3 words actually mean. Triple H does not cry. This is a man who built his entire career and his entire life in professional wrestling on a foundation of absolute unshakable control. The cerebral assassin. The chief content officer of WWE. The man who walked into every single situation across 3 decades of professional wrestling with the same composed, calculated presence that told everyone around him that nothing was ever going to break him. Not opponents. Not setbacks. Not the pressure of running the biggest professional wrestling company in the world. Triple H processes things. Triple H strategizes. Triple H turns whatever he feels inside into forward momentum and decisive action. And yet there he stood. Outside a hospital, in front of cameras, in front of reporters, in front of the entire WWE Universe that was already barely holding itself together after weeks of devastating news about Paul Heyman. And the tears on his face were not being hidden, not being managed, not being channeled into anything except the raw, completely unperformable grief of a man who had just walked out of a hospital room where his closest friend is fighting for his life. What Triple H announced outside that hospital is going to make you cry. It is going to make you angry. It is going to make you feel things that are complicated and heavy and impossible to organize neatly. Stay until the very last word of this video because the final detail Triple H shared is the detail that tells you everything about who Paul Heyman truly is at the deepest level of his being. And it is the most heartbreaking and most inspiring thing you will hear all year. First, we need to understand where things stand medically because without that context, nothing Triple H announced makes complete sense. Paul Heyman was rushed to medical care after Seth Rollins attacked him on Raw. We have covered that attack on this channel in the full detail it deserves. This was not a random act of violence. This was a deliberately planned, specifically executed assault designed by one of the most analytically precise minds in professional wrestling to cause the maximum possible permanent damage to Paul Heyman. Seth Rollins did not just want to hurt Paul Heyman. He wanted to remove him completely and permanently from the professional wrestling world. The paralysis that resulted was the most immediate and most visible consequence of what Seth Rollins did that night. But paralysis was not the full extent of what that attack started medically. The weeks since that Raw broadcast have been a medical journey whose specific details have been carefully and properly protected by WWE and by the people closest to Paul Heyman. What information has come out has been enough to tell the WWE Universe that the situation is extremely serious, but not enough to provide the kind of clear reassurance that the people who love Paul Heyman have been desperately needing someone to give them. That uncertainty, that weeks-long space of not knowing, of updates that communicated seriousness without providing resolution, has been one of the most genuinely painful things the WWE Universe has had to sit with in recent memory. And Triple H's hospital announcement either resolves that uncertainty or deepens it beyond anything anyone has been prepared to face. Triple H arrived at that hospital, and the significance of that arrival alone deserves to be understood properly. The Chief Content Officer of WWE has responsibilities that do not stop for personal crisis. He has a WrestleMania season to manage. He has a full roster of superstars whose storylines and programming require his constant creative and organizational attention. He has an entire institution whose momentum must be maintained regardless of what is happening in his personal world. The fact that he set every single one of those responsibilities aside and personally walked through the doors of that hospital tells you something about his relationship with Paul Heyman that no official statement could ever communicate as clearly. Triple H and Paul Heyman go back further and deeper than most people in the current WWE Universe fully remember. These are not simply professional colleagues whose careers happen to cross at useful moments. These are two men whose histories in professional wrestling are genuinely and completely intertwined. They competed against each other. They worked alongside each other. They challenged each other. They disagreed with each other. And through all of it, they arrived at a shared understanding of what professional wrestling can be and what it owes to the people who give their lives to it. That kind of relationship cannot be manufactured and cannot be replaced. Triple H showing up at that hospital was not a PR move. It was not an organizational obligation. It was a friend who is terrified walking through a door because walking through that door is the only thing left available when the people you love most are in places where your power and your intelligence and your decades of professional experience cannot follow you. The announcement itself was made outside the hospital. Triple H standing in front of cameras with tears he was not trying to hide, carrying news he had been processing privately and now had to make public regardless of what it cost him to do so. And what he announced has layers. The first layer is this. Paul Heyman's condition has stabilized in ways that the medical team surrounding him did not feel confident predicting in the immediate aftermath of Seth Rollins' attack. The paralysis, while still present and still representing an enormous life-changing reality, has not progressed in the most feared directions that the weeks following the attack had suggested it might. Paul Heyman is alive. Paul Heyman is conscious. And then Triple H's voice broke completely and did not recover for a long moment as he delivered the detail that stopped everyone listening in their tracks. Paul Heyman is asking about professional wrestling. From a hospital bed. Paralyzed. After everything Seth Rollins did to him. Paul Heyman is asking about the stories and the characters and the developments that have been happening in his absence. As if the mind that Seth Rollins tried to silence permanently simply cannot be silenced. As if the connection between Paul Heyman and professional wrestling exists at a level so deep that no physical trauma can reach it or touch it or break it. If that does not make you cry, then I genuinely do not know what will. Because that single detail is Paul Heyman in his most essential and most irreducible form. A man whose relationship with professional wrestling is so completely woven into the fabric of who he is that even the most extreme damage Seth Rollins was capable of delivering cannot separate his consciousness from the industry he has devoted his entire life to. Seth Rollins attacked Paul Heyman's body. He could not touch what makes Paul Heyman who he is. But the second layer of Triple H's announcement is the devastating one. The paralysis is not resolved. The road from where Paul Heyman is right now to any version of returning to professional wrestling in any capacity is a road whose length and difficulty and final destination nobody can currently map with confidence. Triple H said the words that sent every camera searching for his face because the words alone were not enough to carry their weight. He does not know when he will have Paul Heyman back. Triple H, the most powerful man in professional wrestling. Standing outside a hospital with tears running down his face, saying he does not know when he will have his closest friend back. That is the single most heartbreaking image professional wrestling has produced in the modern era of this company. The WWE Universe's response has been everything Paul Heyman deserves. Real people crying real tears, not because a creative team told them to feel something, but because a genuine human being who gave them real joy and real intelligence and real elevation of something they love is lying in a hospital bed. And the man who just came from that bed could not stop his own tears while telling them what he found there. Paul Heyman earned every single one of those tears. Every promo, every client relationship, every moment of genuine brilliance he brought to an industry that needed it desperately. All of it earned the real unmanageable grief that this announcement produced in people all around the world. Seth Rollins has to answer for this, not in a ring with stipulations and a referee, in every genuine sense of accountability that a professional community can demand from someone whose choices produced this outcome for someone this beloved and this irreplaceable. Paul Heyman is fighting. The fact that he is asking about wrestling from that hospital bed proves it beyond any doubt. Drop your reaction in the comments right now. Share your Paul Heyman memory, the moment he made you understand what professional wrestling could truly be. Subscribe and hit the notification bell immediately because this story is not finished and every single development deserves to be covered with everything this channel has.